What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys here with you today. And guys, we had a lot of talks with people on social media talking about, what are the pros and cons of this new head coaching position that the Colts are probably going to have coming into the 2023 offseason. We assume that Jeff Saturday is not going to be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts going forward. You got a whole new thing going on with, the new quarterback and a couple other things going on. So, what are some pros and cons to when that position gets to be where the interview process is going? What are some things that the Colts are going to be able to pitch to candidates? And what are some negatives that they're going to have to overcome? So, we can go ahead and talk about some of the pros of this position here. And Cody, I think that the number one thing you could talk about is this team is more than likely going to get a new quarterback this offseason in the draft or through free agency. And you would assume that as soon as the season is over in early February, that you're going to be able to chat with a lot of these coaches and say, hey, if you become our new head coach, you're going to have a say in the direction that this team takes with a guy that you like. What do you say to that possibility?
I mean, that alone should be enticing. Well, it'll be interesting to see over the next 4 or 5 weeks where the Colts end up in draft position. Currently, they sit at number 9 as we stand right now. I'll be interested to see, do they move up during this bye week? Are they in the top 5? Where do they end up? I think if they're in the 5 to 3 to 2 range, then that's definitely, a lot more enticing, obviously, because you're going to get one of those top 3 guys, no doubt. But yeah, so I think for that alone, that'll be something that, a luxury that honestly Frank Reich never had because he inherited Andrew Luck for one season. This is something that this will be great for whoever the head coach candidate is. They'll have their choice of 3-4 guys here, within the top 5, top 10 picks that they can go with, and they can go a lot of different directions. So that alone should be enticing, knowing that you're going to have the option and likely you're going to have the final say in getting the franchise guy for this team, and you're going to have him on a cheap deal. So those two things are really enticing, and you get the opportunity, depending if the Colts go for more of a, offensive approach like they did with Frank Reich, more of a defensive guy like Pagano. Does that coach kind of look at it and be like, wow, I have the opportunity to help groom a rookie quarterback, a guy with traits, and develop him potentially into, a star in this league. So yeah, that should be alone a very enticing thing. But like I said, we'll see where the Colts end up here when everything's said and done.
Yeah. And then, like you said, on top of it, you have that high draft capital that you wanted to mention. I mean, of course, with the high draft pick that you're going to have here this season. And, maybe as, things develop, maybe you still have that next off season because of, the issues with getting acclimated to a new system and a new quarterback. Maybe things go that way. I don't know. But right now, you definitely have a lot of capital to run with here in 2023 for this stuff. So that's definitely a good sign, from managing certain things in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to have a high second-round pick, most likely. You had that third-round pick from Washington. So you're going to have a full, potential draft, board, draft picks and stuff of that nature. And I'll be interested to see, do the Colts trade some guys, potentially get some other picks as well, and try to load up in the draft and get rid of some of those higher contracts that they have on their roster currently. So, yeah, that'll be definitely enticing, just having a lot of opportunities to really improve this team and really get some high-profile players.
And then going with, the idea that, now that you're going to be in the system and you're still trying to figure things out with not only head coach, but OC, now if you're the head coach, you now come in and now you can adopt and present a new offensive philosophy in this organization now. Because now, Frank Reich is gone. If you want to replace Parks Frazier, which most likely will happen in the offseason, bring somebody with you that you like that, is going to come in and provide you some good time. That's the connection world that we live in now. It'll feel good to know that on the offensive side of things, that you're really going to be running the show in a lot of ways, because offensively, you're going to have free reign to pick who you want to have run this offense and design things for you. That's got to feel good coming into this kind of situation, especially if you're looking for an offensive minded coach.
Yeah, you're going to have full control. This offense is in total disarray. So I think any change is a welcome change for this team offensively. So, yeah, if they do hire an offensive guy, he's going to be able to basically bring in his guys, and we'll see on the defensive staff. I would assume they would just clean house and just start over. And then, he'd be able to get his staff on that side of the ball too. So they'd be able to just kind of figure out philosophies and bring in a new one, whatever that looks like. So, yeah, definitely.
And then, of course, when you're now looking at the talent of things, you have a solid defense on the other side, Cody. I don't care what any other Colts fan says. This Colts defense is a fringe top 10 defense. The way it's currently constructed, how things are going to look in the offseason, I'm not 100% sure. But you do have a lot of pieces on that defense that definitely makes this team have the ability to at least contend on the defensive side of the football. And that's a good thing. And then, of course, like you mentioned to me, the skill positions for you on the offense, you have some young, talented guys over there. You got Michael Pittman, you got Jonathan Taylor, Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, and then those tight ends in Granson and Jelani Woods. You have a bunch of these guys that, if all of them actually are staying this year, because we don't know what's going to happen throughout the offseason. Maybe one of these guys gets traded for a draft pick or something. Either way, you do have some guys on this offensive side of the ball that are capable of, doing some things with the right kind of offensive philosophy and the right kind of quarterback throwing them the football. So from a personnel standpoint, and then on top of it, like we said before with the O-line, the O-line's been really bad this year. But ever since Jeff Saturday has taken over, while the offensive line hasn't been great, it hasn't been horrendously bad either. So that's a good sign of where things can come if we, get somebody on the offensive line coaching staff that actually knows how to get the best out of these guys, and maybe with another year of development for Ryman, who gets stronger, and maybe Will Fries at right guard. Maybe we see some more things going on. From a personnel standpoint, how does it look for a coach coming in?
I mean, very enticing. You talked about, offensive line. I wanted to touch on that again because, if Ryman can continue to improve like he has, that is a huge position that you potentially fill at left tackle. Mind you, a position that you have missed on and you really have struggled to fill since Anthony Costanzo retired. So, you couple that on top of the potential to get one of these top quarterback prospects. The great thing is you don't really have to touch tight end or wide receiver. You might want to add a little bit to maybe wide receiver. I could see that, or maybe get another tight end if you cut ties with Mo Alley Cox. I could see them doing that, but really the talent is there. You have invested a lot in these two position groups. And it's really, reaped the benefits of it. And I really hope the Colts bring back Paris Campbell, because I do think he has something and he provides something unique on this offense that they don't have when he's not out there. So from that perspective, you have guys now that have proven that they can make plays, in the passing game. All of these guys have tremendous upside, I do feel. With Pittman, we already know what he can do when he's actually targeted. Alec Pierce, we know what he can do on the 50-50 balls, even though he is still very raw. He's only going to continue to develop as a route runner. And then Paris Campbell, like we mentioned, he's got that speed. And then you got guys like Kylan Granson, who's had a great second year. Jelani Woods, when he has been targeted, he has shown that he can be a playmaker. He's already got the size, and now he's starting to put it together. When he actually gets the ball, I know he has some concentration drops and stuff of that nature at times, but the talent is just immense with Jelani Woods. So, the great thing is when you bring in a quarterback, you don't really need to do a whole lot to surround him with some offensive weapons. He's already going to have some of those guys if you keep them all on your roster next year.
Yep, absolutely agree. I mean, and like you said, there's opportunities to fill more, and that's what free agency is for. Hopefully, Ballard understands that, and ends up going a little bit more aggressive here this offseason, especially on the offensive side of things, because we've seen him do it with defense, and it's worked quite often, to say the least. But offensively, he hasn't done it. So, and then one other thing before we move on to the cons of this is, despite what people say about Jim Irsay, he is still an owner that wants to win football games, and he's very passionate about it. That's all he wants, is to win football games. It is very apparent. And you would want to be a part of an organization where an owner, even though he has his flaws, especially which we're about to talk about here in the cons, at the end of the day, you see the passion that comes out of a Jim Irsay. And, until you lose that passion, which, I mean, obviously, if you're trying your hardest and, you're showing that you got something in you, then Irsay's not going to turn on you for any reason. Just at the end of the day, with somebody that comes in with a lot of fire and wants to work for an owner that has that kind of passion, that's what you're going to get in Indianapolis.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim Irsay will be one of your biggest supporters. I will say that. Like, he has shown that, sometimes to a fault. He has shown that he will back those guys. He's shown that with Pagano. He showed that we know with Ballard and Reich for a number of years, even though they won nothing. He still showed a lot of tremendous support for them. So yeah, definitely a guy that wants to win and will be loyal to his guys.
Yep, absolutely. Now we shift to the cons of this position. And for the same thing we talked about with the Colts having the opportunity to go and get a new quarterback, that is also a negative here, Cody. You have to look at it on the flip side of things. If you had a franchise quarterback right away and the previous coach just wasn't getting the job done, and you feel like this is a franchise quarterback that I can get behind, and once I implement my system, he's going to thrive. That's a different story than, taking on the pressure of having to help select a new quarterback and then having to, train him in all these different ways. Right. So, on top of it, it's a good thing that he's getting the opportunity to put this new quarterback in, but it also requires a lot more work and effort going into that situation.
Yeah, 100%. I could also see it on the flip side of it being a positive, because you could potentially have some more grace there, knowing, oh, it's a rookie quarterback. We're building around him. He's going to have, times where he doesn't look great. He has rookie moments, so maybe that does buy you some more time. And maybe it does, like, if you had a franchise quarterback, it takes some of the pressure off. But I get what you're saying, because, like, what you have if you had a franchise guy. Like, this is a really great, to elite quarterback. All I have to do is make sure that we utilize him to his best of his ability, right? I don't have to work to develop him necessarily. Whereas when you draft a guy, that's that's what you have to do. You have to help develop this guy and see what he is and evaluate. So it's a longer process, and it's a wild card in a lot of ways when it comes to quarterbacks in this day and age, and just rookie quarterbacks in general. So yeah, that is a lot of pressure to try to figure out the next franchise quarterback, and whoever it is you do end up taking, how do you get the best out of them? How do you help their development and not hurt their development?
And then when you're talking about, the pressure of everything, and we talked about it going into this, you're going into this now in the fact that you have to fix this offense. Like, this offense was so historically bad this year from a franchise standpoint. And then, like you said before, there's a grace period, right? Like, there's a time when you need to try to, work some things out. But of course, if you get there right away and then, it doesn't get fixed right away, you wonder if your head's going to be on the chopping block before you even have a chance to even do anything, right? So before you even get a chance to see this thing even work out, right? So it's one of those situations where the offense is so unappealing to a lot of people. You're wondering if even any of the candidates believe that they can even actually fix it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely.
And then when you're talking about the free agency situation, you and I talk about it. We've mentioned it several times that Chris Ballard and his free agency style, it is so unappealing to a lot of people. Uh, this offseason, they went and got a couple of defensive players. They went and got Yannick Ngakoue. They went and got Stephon Gilmore. Fantastic acquisitions on the defensive side of things. But on the offensive side of things, you really didn't do anything offensively. You didn't really go and get any running backs. You didn't go and get any wide receivers. You only drafted one. You let all of your offensive linemen walk out the door and just decided I'm going to be okay with the guys that I have. That hasn't worked out for you. And then, you went and got Matt Ryan, who, has been a complete and utter disappointment this year. And that has been Chris Ballard's style, right? Never really going big splashes, right? When it comes to free agency. Even I think the biggest move he ever made in free agency was, going and getting DeForest Buckner. But even then, that was a trade. That wasn't a free agent. That was a trade. So that's a different scenario than what it is of actually just going and acquiring players. And you wonder, like, there's a lot of coaches that talk to their GMs, and there's a ton of GMs that are a lot more aggressive in the way they acquire players than Chris Ballard. And it makes you wonder, do I really want to go to a place where, like the GM is so hesitant to want to go and get players that could really impact our team right away?
Yeah, and I definitely could see that being a concern for head coaches is just like, we saw what happened with Frank Reich. Now, I'm not saying Frank Reich didn't deserve to get fired. He did. But you have to admit, Chris Ballard didn't do him any favors on offense this offseason. So I think both can be true. But yeah, I mean, if you're a guy, especially an offensive guy, and you see the track record of Chris Ballard and not really getting guys in free agency, like guys that could have made an impact. Like you look at some of those guys that Chris Ballard could have went and got, but he decided not to, that really could have changed this team and really could have helped them out and solved a lot of their issues. And we just decided to sit on our hands, think that Matt Ryan could fix everything. And that did not happen at all. So yeah, I would definitely say that is a hesitation for sure. Would be, if Chris Ballard is still here, if he still is the GM, I don't see why there's a lot of coaches, if they see that he's safe and he can do whatever he wants, why would I want to go work for that guy? Like I don't blame him.
Yep, absolutely. And then, of course, what everyone's been talking about this year, right? With the antics of everything that has gone on this year, right? So the team drastically underperforming this year. And then the owner got sick and tired of what was going on and said, I'm about to make some moves. And whether you like it or not, you guys promised me this and you didn't deliver. So now it's time for me to, step in here, and I'm going to eliminate some of these people from the building. Regardless of how you feel about it or whether or not it's a deal breaker or not, you got to imagine though, Cody, like the media eyes and fans' eyes around the NFL are all glued to this decision about who the Colts go with their next head coach, right? So all the media wants to know who's going to get hired, right? So they can pick you apart, tell you if you're good, tell you if you're trash, tell you all these things, right? Whether or not the Colts made a good decision. So, it's a lot different than, some other organizations who felt that, either the coach definitely deserved to be gone and that, somebody else needed to step in. But here, you got the entire media world wondering, what the Colts are going to do next because of the circus that's been going around on the building in the last month. So got to wonder, how many head coaches want to have to deal with that?
Yeah, like a meddling owner, that's just, that's sketchy, So that is definitely a factor, definitely a con in this is, Jim Irsay, is he going to take on more of a Jerry Jones kind of role, kind of leadership style, and really be hands-on on it? And do you want to tie yourself to something like that if you're a head coach, kind of similar reasons what I mentioned, like with the GM, like, Frank Reich was the first one on the chopping block. And, if you put yourself in a position of a head coach, and you look at it and you say, well, was Frank treated fairly? There are questions about that, and so it definitely would be a hesitation as a head coach, seeing how that was handled and how that was honestly, the optics of it were not good. So seeing that, it's like, do I want to put myself in that position, with this circus right now that is the Colts, and the way that they've handled things. So yeah, that definitely is a con, something that people are going to have to, head coach candidates are going to have to consider. Is that something they feel comfortable with? And I don't know what the answer is.
Absolutely agree with you. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it, guys, for our pros and cons of whoever wants to become the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Let us know your thoughts, guys. What do you think some of the pros and cons are of this team and trying to acquire a new head coach going into 2023? But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. And as always, go Colts. What's going on, everybody? Today, I wanted to talk to you about our sponsor, BetStamp. Now, I know what you're thinking. Derek, another betting app? What is so different about this one now? Well, I got to tell you guys, I'm not into online gambling a whole lot and bets online and everything, but I got to tell you, BetStamp is one of the coolest things I have ever seen in regards to betting online. The great thing about BetStamp is it allows you to see all the different odds from all different sports books and see which one provides you the best odds possible for any game or scenario you want to bet on for your pick versus some of the worst. BetStamp allows you to also buy and sell picks that you have without worrying about losing your money or having any issues with it. Believe me, it's all free. I mean, look at this, guys. You have an option for every game across all different kinds of leagues in a ton of different ways. You have baseball, you have college football, UFC, NBA, and NFL. Great for the NFL season now being here. And if I wanted to bet on this Tennessee Titans versus Buffalo Bills game, it shows me in real time what are the best odds, which sports book I'm going to get the best offer from versus some of the worst ones. Because why would you want to earn less money from PointsBet when you could be winning more from ProLine Plus? Again, a great thing that BetStamp offers you, allowing you to make more money for the same pick just with a different sports book. How easy is that? And the great thing is there's not just games. There's player props. There's game props. There's lines. There's live tracking. There's a ton of great ways to make bets and picks on BetStamp, guys. Totally a cool thing to use. I highly encourage you check it out if you're into any kind of online betting. Even if you're not, give it a check. See what you like about it, because I think I actually enjoy using it. But the best way to get an edge on online sports betting is having multiple accounts at different sports books. Be sure to hit the BetLink page, betstamp.app/onboarding. Be sure to check out the BetStamp app or online, and be sure to use the referral code JUICE, plug in your state, and you'll get access to all their affiliates and their prices once you open it up, seeing all states' lines. Be sure to check this out, guys. You won't want to miss it for the best odds on your next sports bet.